Hello everyone, you're welcome to this edition of the 6 p.m. primetime newscast on EQUINOXE television, live from my headquarters in Cameroon's economic capital, Douala. I am Bable Jonathan. In our top stories in this edition of the news, relative calm returns to the northwest regional chief town, Bamenda, after gun battles between separatist fighters and security and defense forces emanating from the killing of an element of the army rescue unit in the town yesterday. And now that the country, the International Organization of La Francophonie, suspends Mali from its membership after the ousting of President Ibrahim Boubacar Keïta and his government. Thanks once more for joining us on this edition of the news. We begin in the northwest regional capital, Bamenda, where gun battles started yesterday and continued this morning following the killing of an army rescue unit soldier in the town yesterday. Relative calm has now returned, as we hear with our correspondent in Bamenda, Frédéric Taka.
There have been intensive shooting around Moulin, Equata in Bamenda. Some inhabitants told us that the army is busy hunting armed fighters who allegedly killed a soldier working with the army rescue unit yesterday. So the Moulin Quata in Bamenda 2 subdivision is witnessing since that yesterday several gunshots. Military have stormed the Quata in search of separatist fighters. Also, several bikes were burned around that area. Some store also. Some inhabitants are crying the excesses of the army during this operation. As speaking now, there is relative calm, but we are not able to move to Moulin. Other quarters in Bamenda are moving with their activities. Nkwen, Commercial Avenue, and Obstruction, and other areas are functioning well.
Frédéric Takan reporting there from the northwest regional capital, Bamenda. And as I indicated earlier, relative calm has returned after the gun battles that swept through the town since yesterday to the early part of today in the town of Kumba, Meme Division, southwest region of the Republic of Cameroon. Calm has equally returned after the protests of women, notably traders of the Kumba main market, and activities have returned to normalcy in that market in the town of Kumba. The market was shut down for over 2 weeks as the government delegate, or rather the city mayor of Kumba, steps up the fight against Operation Ghost Town. The market was shut down as part of the city council's strategy to compel traders to stop respecting Operation Ghost Town, and the women traders in that market took to the streets yesterday. And after the protest, the market was reopened and everything has returned to near normalcy in the Kumba main market in the Meme Division of the southwest region of the Republic of Cameroon. Still in the southwest region, we now take you to the opaque city of Limbe, where some inhabitants of Bongala village in Boye subdivision are accusing the administration to have interfered in the appointment and, of course, the installation of the traditional ruler of that part of the town of Boya, not in Limbe, in Boya. And we have details with our correspondent Davidson Maimo.
In anger, the disgruntled camp say an appeal shall be tendered before the competent authority as they argue that justice has been breached on the choice of their chief.
And those people coming in are not even indigenous of the village.
Yes, of course, an appeal is going to be made for what has been done in this is unjust to the indigenous of the community.
I'm an old man in Bongala, born in 1947. So we are carrying that matter ahead. We are not going to accept it.
According to them, it is a legitimate right of the late chief's son to ascend to the throne.
The chief of late has left a son, and that's the son whom we want to put back to the throne.
You cannot take away my bed rights.
They are pointing accusation fingers to the administration for destabilizing the peace and tranquility the people of Bongala have.
There is a Gazette office in Boya that they have to follow to know who is the rightful person to the throne. The person that was rejected is the one that the chiefs and the administration took because they have been corrupt. Because the person who corrupted them is going around saying how he has given millions to the TO, he has given this.
Because this encourages violence. He's boasting that he has given the TO 8 million. I'm not afraid if you want to come and arrest me, so arrest me. He has given me 8 million. That we should go and double to the 10. So if I don't have money, what I can calculate it to do? Because this is my village. I cannot accept an outsider to come and rule me in my village. I will use violence. They said the kingdom of God suffered violence. And by violence, Bongala we shall take it by force.
Some critics have the opinion that land surrender in Fako division has turned chieftaincy position upside down with selfish interests from some individuals overshadowing the community interest.
Meaning that in Fako division today, they buy chieftaincy with money. What I've seen in Fako today does not happen in any division in the southwest. Somebody cannot just leave his house because he has money. Meaning that somebody can leave Bamenda to come buy chieftaincy in Bojongo.
It is about 10 months since the late chief joined his ancestors, and today the village is in disarray as the chieftaincy saga is gaining steam. Bongala is a village within the Bojongo Court area under Boya subdivision in the southwest region.
From Bongala village in Boya subdivision to the north region of the Republic of Cameroon, where 2 teenagers have been arrested by gendarme officers for illegal manipulation of human bones. The teenagers said that a sect which they recently joined asked them to bring the bones so that they can be made rich. Chacun reports.
Siane Robert and Dubois Pascal alias Abdoulaye, all 19 years of age, are the latest to fall in the dragnet of the elements of the gendarmerie in Garoua 1 municipality. The teenagers were caught with human bones. According to one of them, he was only accompanying his friend, whom he claimed was sent by a set to dig out the skeleton of a dead person to make him rich. The arrest of these 2 teenagers was possible thanks to the collaboration between the security forces and members of the Vigilante Committee group in Kongori neighborhoods.
So those 2 suspects were arrested because we collaborate with the traditional rulers, the Vigilante group and the population. Because those 2, the information we got from those people is that those 2 boys deals with a human skeleton.
During the presentation of the 2 human bone traffickers, the divisional officer of Garoua 1, Ismailu Adama, thanked the security forces for their relationship with the population.
Nous voyons que dès qu'ils ont été saisis par un cas comme celui-là, ils ont remonté toute la filière.
Siane Roberts and Dubois Pascal will now answer to the justice system of Cameroon.
A gang of 7 suspected bandits has been dismantled in Banjok in the Upper Sanaga Division, Central Region of the Republic of Cameroon by the National Gendarmerie. Banjok Gendarmerie Brigade Commander Otabela Nki and his collaborators began tracking down the suspects after a robbery incident. With the collaboration of the Ubala Gendarmerie Brigade, the suspects were arrested in the course of investigations, and the suspects were allegedly specialized in the stealing of motorbikes between Banjok and the nation's capital Yaoundé with the aid of an informant in Banjok. One of their victims said in the modus operandi of the alleged bandits, they pretend to be clients, and on the way they will attack the biker before making away with his bike. And a 16-year-old student commits suicide in Cameroon's economic capital. Douala Chinda Cabral failed the brevet d'études du premier cycle BEPC examination and decided to take away his own life. He is said to have committed a toxic substance, and that was yesterday. He died earlier this morning. His corpse has been deposited in the mortuary of the Luchem Hospital in Bona Musadi. We shall be coming back to this in the second part of this edition of the news. Now out of the country, the International Organization of La Francophonie has suspended Mali from its membership. It is the latest body to take action following last week's overthrow of President Ibrahim Boubacar Keita's government by the military. The decision by La Francophonie comes days after the Economic Community of West African States ECOWAS held unsuccessful talks with the military junta over a return to democratic rule. Inocenaze.
The International Organization of La Francophonie, OIF, decides to suspend Mali's membership on Tuesday, August 25th, as the military junta seized power from President Ibrahim Boubacar Keita. This suspension has been recognized by its leadership as an extraordinary session held via video conference, while adding that it will maintain any cooperation that will help the civilian population and the transition to democracy. The decision came a day after envoys from the West African bloc, ECOWAS, and the new military rulers said they had failed to agree on a timetable to return Mali to democratic rule. The OIF also called for the liberation of our state president Ibrahim Boubacar Keita, who stepped down from power last week after the military revolt, saying he wanted to avoid bloodshed. The International Organization of La Francophonie also called for the establishment as soon as possible of a transition government led by a civilian authority. It said it will be sending a high delegation to Mali in the coming days. On the other hand, the United Arab Emirates Ministry of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation, in a statement on Tuesday, said it is closely following the situation in the Republic of Mali. Rim bint Ibrahim Al-Hashemi, the UAE's Minister of State for International Cooperation, has contacted a number of African organizations, stressing the UAE's commitment to ensuring stability throughout the Sahel region. In the August 25th statement still, Al-Hashemi said she is constantly following up on the developments in Mali, noting that she has reached out to both the African Union and the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, to discuss the current situation. The United Arab Emirates emphasizes the importance of maintaining peace and security in the Sahel region and on the need for international support for counter-terrorism efforts in this vital region.
And in Malawi, a civil society group wants members of parliament to be allowed to debate in their local language. The Center for Democracy and Economic Development Initiative says the legislators will better express themselves in vernacular than in English language. According to the center's director, Sylvester Namiwa, the people will also understand the debates better if they were in their language. Up next, Talking Point. Thanks for joining us in Talking Points. Today we are receiving an educationist and a civil society leader, Joe Boniface Nji. Thanks for joining us today.
It is my pleasure. Thank you for inviting me here.
All right. A student takes away his own life, a 16-year-old student, after he failed the brevet d'études du premier cycle BEPC examination. How can we understand this?
The first thing I want to say is may his soul rest in peace, and my condolences with the bereaved family. When these things happened, the first thing that came to mind was to revisit all the incidents that have occurred in line with the same situation We have been having cases of students who commit similar offenses. I call them offenses because they have failed their GCE, they have failed this and that and that. To me, I think I have to go back to education. The education we talked about some times ago involving formal and informal education. I think when we have to talk about the education of the child, we have to look at the way we, the parents, we put our children together, the way we try to talk to them. There are many of us who don't even care to have meetings with our family once in a while to talk to them. Poverty is a very glaring situation, but at the same time, poverty brings violence, and if we have children who are well trained through education, we update them with information within our families. I think some of the issue can be eradicated. Let me point out one example. If you are poor and you are that kind of a poor person who communicates with your family, they know the sources of your income, they know how you spend them, the income. You have regular meetings to communicate with your family. Some of us believe that you don't need to talk about monetary matter with the children. To me, I say no. Children are supposed to know how your income comes. Children are supposed to know how you spend it, and they are supposed to appreciate you when you are poor. Because the time you are poor, they will say, oh, Papa does not have, Mama does not have. Even your wife, when your wife discovers that you don't have, and you are that kind of an open-minded person who is very transparent in the way you do things financially, she will always come in to support you. I think I'm talking, my wife is listening to me. This is exactly what I'm saying, and that's the way we live, and that's the best way of life. So violence is initiated in the family when children or even your wife, they don't know the source of income and they don't know how you spend it. Even the moment you say you are poor, they don't believe in you. I want to think that this child, for one reason or the other, is that such a family where there is a lot of that friction where the parents cannot agree over finances. And maybe it could be a child who maybe for one reason or the other, he comes from a single parent home where there is really poverty, and thinking that he had now to write his examination, pass and liberate his poor mother or his poor father, and failing the examination, he begins to think of a lot of situations that are going to surrender another expenditure, especially with the COVID-19 that came and has brought people under their knees. So I want to think that when we have our children, we communicate with them, they will appreciate, and we tell them exactly. Maybe he has been unfortunate to have been told that this money, I have borrowed it from a meeting house, I'm giving you to write this examination. Make sure you do everything to pass. If you do not pass, just know that you will not come back. When the child is traumatized like that, he begins to imagine, how am I going to go back home now that I've failed? The only thing is for him now to take away life.
You're talking about pressure from the parents.
Yes,
to bear
exactly.
On
Where
children,
there are some of us who
you must succeed.
If you don't succeed, don't come back here. If you don't succeed, you know how I've suffered. I've borrowed this money. Please do everything to pass. If you don't pass, don't come you back here. So that threat, considering that the young Gabriel was 16, he has not been matured enough mentally to understand that he could still go home and meet the parents and beg the parents and beg for another chance for him to go on and try again. So he shied away through the fear which has been inflicted in him. Now he decided to take away his life. That's another way. Another way is also looking at the way these our Cartier boys are living. Most of these young boys who are going to school today, we have been hearing cases of starving teachers with that by Form 3, Form 2, Form 4 students. It's very, very glaring in our society today. He might have been that kind of a boy who mingles with these other lunatics in the quarter, and he has been moving around. Instead of sitting to prepare for his GCE, he has been roaming about, and he thinks that he will just have to pass the examination like that, which is not true. If you don't work for anything, you can't get it.
Now, when a child gets to that level of drinking a toxic substance to take away his own life, what can we deduce from that with regards to issues of parental education, counseling, teaching of the children, and so on?
Yeah.
And even the teachers in school.
Yeah. Coming to that, I want to say maybe parents are such parents who like fighting, and because of fighting, they always take arms. So the child who has been used to arms, he can use arms against himself, against any other person. Maybe he is that kind of a child who is in such a family where People do not communicate. They have not been able now to make him understand that even writing examination does not mean you will always pass. After examination is not the true test of knowledge. My son, please, if you write the examination and you fail, we are not praying that you should fail, but put in all maximum efforts to make us happy, to make us proud of you. But if you fail, it is not the end of life.
The manner
in which the parents, I want to believe that
to motivate the children to succeed, to work hard.
He must have come from that kind of a family where there is tension. Where there is tension, where they say, if you don't do this, this will happen. If you don't do this, this will happen. And as such, we find the child trying to look for a substitute in order to find himself happy. The other one I want to come here, please permit me. I want to also look at the way poverty has really reigned in the society in such a way that everyone is frustrated. This child would have only been able to be consoled by the fact that he passed his examination. But these old people, they have remained there. They have entered the toilet and locked the door, and they don't want to come out for other people to enter. That is a problem. At the same time, you find children, sometimes in my days, we used to...
old people have entered the toilet?
Yes, they have entered the toilet, they have locked the door and removed the key. I'm talking about governance. I'm talking about the people in power. They don't want to give chances to the young people, and that is frustrating them a lot. At the same time, when I was younger, I used to hear that education is the key to success. But these people have come, they have taken the keys of success and thrown into an ocean. So, young people now are so traumatized. They are so disturbed.
As an educationist, is it right for a parent to flog a child for having failed the exam? Or to tell a child, I'm going to flog you?
That is what I said, Mr. Babila, the other time. I made mention of the quality of education we give to our children in school. We don't need to just send our children to school because we think that we have the money, or because we have to substitute the children's education with poverty. We send them to schools of substance, as I said before. The schools of substance, to mold the child, you have to carve the kind of language you use to the child. You have to understand the kind of message, the content of the message you are giving out to the child, because the child reacts as a result of that message. But when you use a raw language, a child is used to language that has to do with violence. A child is used to language that has to do with tension. A child is used to abusive language. What do you expect about the child? Most often than not, we raise those kind of children who are violent. But if you in your house, you train your child in a sober way, how to approach the society, how to live in the society, the school you choose for your children should be that kind of a school where everything now is fashioned in such a way that the language that is being used at the level of the classroom, at the level of the administration, should be that kind of a language which should be encouraging, a language that makes children now to come closer to God. A language that has to make children now to come closer to the society. A language that has to make children now to feel loved and to be loved. But when you use that kind of a very useless language that has to do with scaring children away, children are inculcated in that kind of a language where they grow up in a violent way, terrorizing children. Children become so violent. Not only reading and writing is our problem. Our problem is molding the society that has to do with integrity, as I said before. Look at the ENAM graduates. Please permit me. Are they not? Did they not study? The ENAM graduates, what are they doing? You see, we are lagging in this country not because we did not go to school, but because we did not go to schools of substance. Look at ENAM graduates. Life in this country is not moving because of the quality of students who graduated from ENAM. Look at what happened when I left here the other day. What happened in Kribi? A Dio had to take away the life of somebody. He cannot give life, but had to take. But this is a graduate from ENAM. This is the kind of education we are talking about. This is the kind of education we are talking about. So there's a problem of when you inculcate a kind of a quality education in the life of your child to grow up and fear the ugly part of life, you have constructed the society.
Whatever the case, it should be clear that nothing can justify suicide. Nothing can justify the fact that somebody should take away his own life.
Yes. The only way that it can be justified is the way you bring up your child. When you bring up your child in the way that that child knows that committing a suicide is not only a sin, it is a crime. When you take away your life, you have sinned against God. You never created a life for yourself. You did not give life to yourself. And because of that, when you commit suicide, the first thing is that you have committed sin in the presence of your Lord. You have committed a crime against the state. You have brought a lot of ill luck into your family. So it is not right to do that. But what children should be brought up and taught about is how to run away from these things. Teach your child the good, the bad, the ugly, the nasty, and even the dirty, and make them to understand that these are the wrong ways of life. But most often, as I said before, we are not always there to bring up the children. How many of us sit with our children and convocate meetings now to talk to them, to talk how to interact with people, how to live around with friends, how to live in school? These children who stab teachers in school, are they not our children? Where did they get these knives? From us. Sometimes we threaten their mothers in their house with knives. Their mother threaten us with broken bottles and so on. These are the kind of things we are talking about. But when you inculcate that kind of quality education in the life of a child, where a child has to fear the ugly part of life, you cannot bring it back, because the child has already been constructed. The mindset has already been constructed in such a way that you cannot destroy that child.
So the responsibility lies on the shoulders of the parents, and
most especially
the parents and the teachers.
The teachers have their role to play, but the majority of that role, 90% of child upbringing, is from the home.
All right.
But most often than not, parents have abandoned all their children to teachers and think that they have to teach them everything, which is not true.
What have they abandoned?
I cannot be the one to teach your daughter who is at puberty how to wear pants. I should not be the one to teach your daughter in school how to control her menses. This is the role of a mother. But most often than not, the mothers are not there for their children. We, the parents, the father is never there to tell a child that stealing is a bad thing. We are stealing from our offices. We turn computers around, we turn them around, we steal money, we embezzle money that is made for the society, and at the end of the day, we come and we buy the kind of cars or make our children to think that stealing is a bad thing, but we are the first thieves. We don't sit with them to say, please, don't do this. Lie is a bad thing, doing this. We abandon the children to themselves. The children are growing like orphans. We are catching the shadow than the object.
And there is something in that light that concerns time management. Most of the parents who find themselves in that kind of situation will tell you they are running after money to take care of the family, to pay school fees, to pay house rent, and everything that the family needs. And so they are leaving the house very early, coming back very late, and never having time to
Mr.
talk to
Babila, children is a gift from God. Nobody can create a child. There are people who are hunting for children today. They are not even blessed with a single child. When you are lucky to have one, please give up some of that time to train your child. You cannot train a bad society because you want money. Money will never fill anybody's pocket. Those who are in power, how many years have they been working? They want to remain there. Where is the money they have been working for over the years? You don't sacrifice the education of your child. You don't sacrifice the social well-being of your child because of money. Time. Has time ever satisfied anybody? No. So you have to devote time to sit down, teach your child, because the happiness of a good parent lies in the fact that you have brought up a good child in the society, the fact that you admire, people talk good about your children, people talk good about you, people begin to imagine when they see your child, someone say, where is this child coming from? Can I need to see the parent of the child? Certainly. People should see you in the child. People should admire your family in the child. People should be able now to recommend the quality of the family the child comes from the way the child behaves outwardly when you are not there. And that comes from the way you train that child. When you allow the child because you say there's no time, these are the same children who grow up because they lack that quality of training and they take knives against us. Especially now that there's no work. When a child becomes a problem to the parent, is because the child was not given good education at home, and because of that, the child had now to join the other vandals in the quarter at the end of the day because of suffering, and he cannot get what he wants now. He takes weapon against the father, against the mother.
If he or she does not learn in the house, he will certainly learn outside.
Yes, exactly. Certainly, what I'm saying here is that learning in school is important, but it is more important at home, because the school has now to only bring its own values, and the values that the school gives to a child differ from one school to another. Why the kind of family you want to raise depends on you, the parent. If you want to raise a bad child, don't think that the teachers in school now will give the best. If you raise a bad child, you will get a bad result no matter the quality of school the child goes. But if you raise a good child, and the school too has to work with you in partnership to inculcate. That is why raising a good child, you need to also choose a good school of substance, which has now to collaborate with you as partners to bring up that society that you want. Without which, you alone, you raise up a child, you send that child to a bad school, that child will not bring results. You alone, you allow the child to be raised by a school because you don't have time. You have time only to look for money, you will not still produce results.
Let's go to the northwest and the southwest regions of the country where there has been an upsurge of violence in the recent days. Since yesterday to the early part of today, there were gunshots, gun battles between separatists and the security and defense forces in the town of Bamenda following the killing of an element of the Army Rescue Unit. What do you think about the increase in violence in those two regions?
Good. We are talking about violence every day. I want to think that, Mr. Babila, the truth is this. If you kidnap or you abduct a virgin, you go and you rape that virgin, and you are forcing that virgin to be a wife of yours, one day that virgin will go away. So, beating the virgin every day, doing whatever thing you are doing, you are not handling the problem. So this violence has been created by the state of Cameroon. And they are not trying to solve it. Whatever is happening is because of bad will. Violence has come to stay. People are dying every day.
How did they create the violence? They are blaming, the authorities are blaming the separatist fighters.
Yes, how did separatist fighter come into existence? Let us go back to 1884 with the coming of the Germans. When you trace and you come up to 1960, when the French Cameroon had their independence, on the 1st of January, more precisely, that to me would have been the day where La République should be celebrating their national day, not 20th May. And then I want to trace it. Please permit me a little bit of faster.
But today we have Cameroon. We don't.
I am coming to that. I am coming to that, sir. I'm coming to that. When in 1960, on the 1st of January, La République had their independence. And now
former La République.
No, La République. They are still La République of yesterday.
Okay.
Now, when they had their independence on the 1st of January 1960, of which they are supposed to be celebrating their national day, they move up now to when they failed in 1961. And you and I, we know why they failed, right? French Cameroon was present, led by Hijo. English Cameroon was present, led by Foncha. Britain was absent. United Nations was absent. Was there any marriage? No. Why are they forcing it? There was no marriage. Django, Foncha,
and the people
a place beside which is celebrated as Youth Day does not exist. That is the way they are trying now to derail the attention of the Anglophones and to keep on deceiving them. What happened to the youth that day? You are still a youth. What happened to the youth on the 11th of February? What happened to the youth that you celebrate as Youth Day, Mr. Babila? What happened to the youth that day? So, you see, the history of this country, the rich history of this country has been hidden. It has been hidden in such a way that we do European history, world affairs, African history, which is not very bad, but why not Cameroon history? They have hidden it from us so that we don't know the truth. But then, since history is life, history is the truth, there is no way you can continue to hide a pregnancy from a woman. I want to, please, let me round up this point.
Go ahead.
Now, when it came now in 1884, to them, those of them who did that, they thought that they were doing a good thing by bringing the name from United Republic of Cameroon that was given in 1972, on 20th May 1972, by bringing it back to La République of Cameroon. To them, they thought that they were doing good, thinking that they wanted to baptize it one and individual Cameroon. But then, they did it well for the Anglophones. It helped the Anglophones to have more justification why they were marginalized, why they were denied. Because it went back now to their former statute at independence of 1960. So therefore, Anglophones have a lot of reason to complain. They have a lot of reason to say they are not part of them. Even during the Bakassi Peninsula, what happened? The Green Trail Agreement stated clearly that Cameroon and Nigeria should respect their international boundary at independence. Therefore, Nigeria is still claiming that Bakassi, they don't have a problem with Cameroon, they have a problem over Bakassi with Southern Cameroon.
Which is not.
That is where
we have northwest and southwest.
That is where those boys, they are fighting to get back their straight hole. The only way forward would have been for the people to listen. I cannot have a problem with you, Mr. Babila. Then I call a meeting in my family and call a few friends that I know, and I say the problem is under control, I've solved it there. When they talk about grand national dialogue, what happened? It was a monologue. We know it. It failed before it even started. What happened? They brought in people who were not the real people at the forefront of the fight. And you expected what? We are talking about reconstruction. They are destroying.
The government is going ahead with the implementation of recommendations of the national dialogue. While
give me just one of them that they have implemented.
There is still violence going on in those two regions.
Give me just one which they have implemented a work.
When you look at the increasing violence, in those two regions, what do you think about the coming days, the coming months of Anglophone Cameroon? Are we moving towards a solution? Are we moving out of track?
I am thinking that I have read a lot about revolutions. Revolution is not a tomorrow thing, as some people believe. Are you getting me? We have had revolution from Southern Sudan and the rest of it. I don't need to cite them here. We have read even the French Revolution. It takes time. But let the truth be on the table. If the truth, let me call it La République, please. If they know that they have justification, why are they denying the Swiss proposed dialogue?
The government?
Yes. Why are they refusing it? That's the dialogue the Anglophones are accepting, to go back to the root causes of the problem, so that they can bring sanity into the two states. Let me call it the two states. Please, I'm not making an error.
There's one state now.
No, it is not one. Republic they are forcing it to be called one indivisible Cameroon. They are two separate states. When La République had independence on the 1st of January 1960, was Southern Cameroon part of it? Was it? Was Southern Cameroon part of it in 1961? In 1960, rather.
It had its independence later and decided to join the other side.
It did not decide. The third option was not there.
From one country.
The third option was not there. Because reports
and so they choose one of the two options?
No, yes, they imposed the options. And at that time, Nigerians were not fair in the way they were treating them. They had no choice because the third option was not given. Since they were reports in the United Nations that they were not economically viable to sustain themselves. So the third option was not given.
Okay, that is what happened in the past. Now, in the present, where we are today, and the future, how to solve this problem, how to get out of
the only thing is when a woman continues to refuse marriage, are you getting me? At one moment, you have to accept that, because marriage is not a force. Sit on the table, evaluate yourself, negotiate, find out. You came in, we have been together for 10 years. Are you getting me? We have been together for 10 years. Who is going to pay who? Why are we separating? What was the status of our marriage? Did he have any formal or informal statute? You look at those things, and when you look at those things now, you ask yourself that question: who is going to pay who? Now you take a decision, and then, well, instead of forcing you can go and let me go. We see who pays and when.
You're talking about a negotiated settlement, is that?
Yes, which was the settlement the Swiss proposed, mediated by the international community. That was not what happened at the Grand National Dialogue. It failed before it started. People went, drank wine, took their envelopes and left. Nothing was said about the problem of the Anglophones.
But there's some who think that Cameroonians can solve their problems. We don't need to go look for somebody outside.
Which Cameroonian are you talking? Are you talking about Southern Cameroon?
Cameroonians can solve their problem. Can the problem not be solved inside the house?
Are you talking about Southern Cameroonians?
Can the problem not be solved inside the house by Cameroonians?
Are you talking about Southern Cameroonians or La République?
I'm talking about Cameroonians.
Well,
can Cameroonians solve the problem?
Unless you tell me the kind of Cameroonian you are talking about.
Can the problem be solved here?
The problem cannot be solved here.
Why can it not be solved here?
Because people are... it is not a national problem. It's an international problem. That is why it cannot be solved in somebody's country who is an enemy. I cannot have a problem with you that demands international intervention, and then you call for me now to solve it in their house. It doesn't work that way. And if it were a national problem, it's not like the problem we come to, who is fighting for change of constitution. It's a problem that has to do with international community, which has to do with international status of a sovereign state. So we cannot be solving it in an enemy's house. That is why I'm asking you, are we talking about Southern Cameroonians or La République, the other part of Cameroon?
We are talking about the Republic of Cameroon.
Good.
We are talking about the Republic of Cameroon.
If we are talking about the Republic of Cameroon, they should solve their domestic problem with the Camtos and the rest, and not the Southern Cameroonian problem.
Joe Boniface G, educationist, thank you for joining us today.
It was my pleasure.
Thanks, ladies and gentlemen, for staying with us. Goodbye.